first question will be, because there were 27 agreements that were signed and exchanged between Singapore and China today. It's the highest number of MOUs ever signed at the JCBC. So firstly, what does this signify for both countries, and what does this mean for Singaporeans? How does this benefit Singaporeans? What's in it for them?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important question. I should always remind ourselves that we should not measure our collaboration by the number of MOUs we sign. It's more the quality rather than the quantity. Although we have a very high number of MOUs being signed between the two countries during this meeting, it covers a wide-ranging topics of collaboration. As I mentioned, ranges from economics, and in fact, it goes beyond economics. It also covers people-to-people exchange, covers cultural exchange, as well as student exchange. We also talk about education, collaboration, sports as well. So I think it's a very wide-ranging area, and this is truly reflective of the 高质量、全方位、前瞻性的伙伴关系. So this is really a all-round, high-quality and future-oriented partnership. So I think this will benefit many of Singaporeans, both businesses as well as people. ECNY, for example, will provide convenience for tourists, Singapore tourists who are coming here, and they can use ECNY to directly pay for the things that they purchase and they consume. And then we also have businesses, we have exchanges in the financial collaboration, financial sector. So I think investors will be interested. And we also have talked about the collaboration on the various G2G projects. This will provide opportunities for many of our businesses to expand their investments to China. So I think this is the many areas that we have been working together. And we also talk about energy, and we talk about science and technology. So I think these are the new opportunities that open up with the collaboration with the 27 MOUs that we signed today.
Chongqing, do you have a question?
I'm Chongqing from the Straits Times. I want to ask you that about how does this year's JCBC, you think your experience compare with last year when you first hosted them in Singapore? In terms of the exchange, do you feel like there was more chemistry between you and Mr. Ding? Yeah.
Well, last year was my first JCBC co-chair with Vice Premier Ding, and this is my second time. It's a bit like old friends getting together again, meeting each other. I think it's a continuation of a very strong partnership between the two of us. But the partnership goes beyond just personal comfort and personal relationship. It's also built on the trust and understanding that we have evolved, that we have developed over the last 35 years. As I mentioned, we are commemorating 35 years of diplomatic relations between China and Singapore. So I think this whole journey of working together, growing together, developing together, and building trust and understanding with each other, generation after generation, that has culminated in today's collaboration. So I think it's not just between the two of us, but for many years of hard work, and also my colleagues who are with me today, and they have also contributed significantly to forging this cooperation. Because at the end of the day, we are two different countries. Our priorities, our interests, our focus are different, but we continue to find areas of common interest that we are able to work together for the mutual benefit of our businesses and our people. So I think that's the important driving force behind the collaboration.
I'll unmute Sean. Sean from Asia One has a question.
Hi, DPM. So for China, it has been trying to, or rather it has been filling up some of the vacuum or gaps left by US not filling certain roles, although some in a very indirect way. Now, China is not lacking in terms of partnership. So how does Singapore continue to set ourselves apart in the midst of these options that China has to be a useful and wanted partner?
Thank you very much. I think both China and US are important to Singapore, and we are strong partners between the two of them. And China is one of our largest trading partner, whereas US is our largest investor. So I think both relationships are very important to us, and we continue to find ways to work with both. Despite the contestation between China and US, we do want to do business with China, and we want to continue to do business with US, and we explain to both of them in the same way. And between China and Singapore, we continue to find areas that we can work together that will be mutually beneficial. And these 27 MOUs that we signed today is a reflection of the ability for us to continue to find it useful to engage one another, to work together, and to find opportunities to develop and grow together. And the opportunities, as I emphasize, is not just on economics, but also beyond economics and extend to people, cultural, sports, youth, and so on. So I think there are many areas that we can work together. AI is one area that we talked about, and I think I can ask Minister Josephine Teo to elaborate on the collaboration that we are working together on the developing AI capability as well as AI governance, so that it will benefit both Singapore and China. Josephine, you want to say something on AI?
Well, thank you very much, DPM Gan. Friends from the media, as you know, as a result of Prime Minister Lawrence Wong meeting with President Xi Jinping on previous occasions, we initiated the digital policy dialogue between Singapore and China. The reasons are because both countries see this mega trend as being very important in terms of reshaping our economies as well as our societies. And we are both looking at how we can make full use of the technologies to uplift our peoples, but yet at the same time strengthening the guardrails. And China has been very forward-leaning in thinking about what are the appropriate changes to the governance measures that they put in place, whether this is in the specific areas of AI implementation or in the broader context of digitalization, where data is also an important subject matter. China, for example, from some years back already identified data itself as a factor of production. Given how forward-leaning it is in thinking about digitalization issues and how the governance approaches need to be updated, we thought it would be a very meaningful exercise for Singapore and China to engage each other, to share our own perspectives on the sound approaches in governing digital domain, and also what we are thinking of in terms of strengthening the guardrails. In Singapore's case, where AI is concerned, we have focused on building up our capabilities in testing, as well as in terms of addressing the risks that are specifically identified. We had some time ago set up the AI Verify Foundation, which has crowded in nearly 200 different organizations to put into practice the framework that was established around risk management, as well as the specific measures that companies can take when they implement AI models. So China also sees this as an interesting experience that they would like to gain more understanding of. So the digital policy dialogue mechanism allows us to explore these topics. But even before we get into AI, there is a lot that we can talk about where data is concerned. So cross-border data flows, what are the right ways of ensuring that it does take place, whilst ensuring that the security concerns of the data exchanging entities are properly taken into account. I think those are the areas that we will continue to engage each other on.
Thank you. Another good example, let me just quickly give an example. CCI is actually a very good example of value adding. We visited the multimodal distribution center this afternoon after lunch. Over lunch, Vice Premier Ding was sharing with me that this is a very important illustrative project. You can imagine that Chongqing is an inland city. It was very difficult to imagine how Chongqing can become a gateway for cross-border trading with neighboring countries. And this afternoon or this morning, we saw the launch of train services from Chongqing to Central Asia and to Southeast Asia. And this is an illustration how we could leverage on the logistic and supply chain capability to turn Chongqing from an inland city to a gateway for the trading with neighboring nations. And this is also where Singapore's strength is. Singapore has always been a hub for trading, for shipping, for logistics, for supply chain. And this is how the two countries coming together will turn Chongqing CCI into a demonstration project. This is what we call, used to say, this is a pathfinder project. They show the way how we can break out of the constraints of the constraints that the city face, like Chongqing.
If I can just add quickly to what DPM Gan has said, ILSTC is a physical project, and so it talks about how we can break through the physical constraints. The digital ILSTC builds on this. It has been decided that this project will be engaged upon by Singapore, IMDA, as well as two entities in China, one at the Chongqing level, as well as another at the state level, which is the National Data Administration. This type of trilateral is very unusual. Usually it would be between an NDA equivalent with Singapore or the Chongqing equivalent with Singapore. But when you have three parties coming together, I think it speaks to the confidence that the NDA has that because you have been a pathfinder in the physical sense, actually you can also be a pathfinder in the digital sense. So the teams that are working together on this have demonstrated that they have trust within this cooperation framework, and they can discuss issues candidly. And I think this is another example of how we can jointly find new ways forward that will work well for both our businesses and our people.